Win the day and you start winning your life. This audiobook, The Psychology of Winning Every Day, is built for real people with real distractions, pressure, and self-doubt. It's not about being perfect. It's about learning how to take charge of your day, even when things aren't going your way. Think about it. How often do you wake up saying, "Today is going to be different," and then fall back into the same patterns, not because you're lazy, but because your mindset hasn't been trained to support the life you actually want? This book is here to change that one choice, one thought, one action at a time. You'll learn how to build mental strength, stay focused, keep promises to yourself, and finally feel proud at the end of the day. It's not about hype, it's about building a system that helps you show up better every single day. This is how you win for real. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. Define daily wins to guide behavior. Winning every day starts with something most people skip because it sounds too simple and too ordinary. But it is the foundation of how human behavior actually works. And that is deciding what a win looks like for today. Not someday. Not next year. Not when everything is perfect, but today. People drift not because they lack talent, but because they wake up without a clear definition of success for the next 12 to 16 hours. When the day has no definition, it fills itself with noise, distractions, and other people's priorities. Psychology tells us that behavior follows clarity. When the mind knows what matters, it organizes effort around it. When the mind is unsure, it wastes energy. Most people confuse winning with big outcomes, money, status, praise, or dramatic change. Those things are results, not daily wins. Daily wins are small, clear actions that give your day direction. When you define a daily win, you give your brain a target. The human mind works better with targets than with wishes. If you wake up and say, "I will win," then the mind asks a quiet question: win at what? If there is no answer, it defaults to comfort habits and old patterns. Comfort feels safe, but it does not build progress. A daily win must be something you can control. You cannot control outcomes fully, but you can control actions, effort, and attitude. A win might be finishing a task you have delayed. A win might be staying calm in a conversation that usually pulls you into anger. A win might be showing up on time, prepared, and focused. These are not small things to the brain. The brain records them as proof of capability. Proof builds confidence. Confidence builds momentum. People often wait for motivation before acting. But psychology shows motivation follows action, not the other way around. When you define a daily win, you reduce the need for motivation. You move from emotional decision-making to intentional behavior. You stop asking how you feel and start asking what needs to be done. This shift changes everything. Feelings come and go, but defined actions stay steady. When a person finishes a day without knowing whether it was successful, the mind feels unsettled. That unsettled feeling often turns into self-doubt or distraction. When a person finishes a day knowing they did what they decided to do, the mind relaxes. There is peace in clarity. That peace makes it easier to show up strong the next day. Winning every day is not about pressure. It is about order. Order reduces stress. Disorder increases it. A daily win should stretch you but not break you. If the win is too easy, it does not engage your attention. If it is too big, it creates avoidance. The mind avoids what feels overwhelming. Choose wins that require effort but are realistic within one day. This trains the brain to associate effort with completion instead of frustration. Over time, the brain becomes more willing to engage with challenges because it expects a payoff. Another key part of defining daily wins is identity. Human behavior follows identity more than goals. When you decide what a win looks like, you are also deciding who you are practicing being today. A person who finishes what they start. A person who speaks honestly. A person who keeps promises to themselves. Identity is not built by thinking about it. Identity is built by repeated action. Daily wins are identity reps. Many people live in reaction mode. They respond to messages, problems, and other people all day long. At the end of the day, they feel busy but not fulfilled. Business is not winning. Winning feels different. Winning feels earned. When you define a daily win, you move from reaction to direction. You still handle responsibilities, but you are no longer owned by them. You choose where your best energy goes. The mind also needs closure. When a day ends without closure, the brain keeps replaying it. This affects sleep, mood, and focus. A defined daily win gives the mind a clear end point. Even if the day had problems, you can say this one thing mattered and it got done. That statement changes how the brain stores the day. It becomes a successful day, not a wasted one. Some people resist defining daily wins because they fear failure. They think if they name a win and do not achieve it, they will feel worse. The opposite is usually true. Without a defined win, failure feels vague and heavy. With a defined win, failure becomes specific and useful. You can adjust tomorrow. Clear failure is better than vague regret. Psychology favors feedback over avoidance. Daily wins also help manage emotions. Emotions rise when days feel out of control. When you know what you are working toward today, emotions become signals instead of drivers. Stress becomes information, not a command. You feel pressure, but you are not owned by it. You know what matters and you return to it. Winning every day does not mean every day feels good. Some days will feel heavy, slow, or frustrating. Winning means you did what mattered even when it was uncomfortable. The brain learns from this. It learns that discomfort is not dangerous. It learns that progress is possible without perfect conditions. This builds resilience quietly and steadily. Another important psychological benefit of daily wins is trust. Self-trust grows when actions match decisions. Every time you define a win and follow through, you send a message to your mind that your word matters. Over time, this reduces inner conflict. You stop arguing with yourself. You decide and you act. That alignment creates strength. People often look for confidence as a feeling, but confidence is built through evidence. Daily wins are evidence, not dramatic evidence, but consistent proof. Proof that you can direct your behavior. Proof that you can improve your day intentionally. Proof that you are not stuck. The mind believes evidence more than affirmations. Defining daily wins also protects you from comparison. When you know what winning means for you today, other people's progress becomes less distracting. You respect it, but you are not pulled off your path. Comparison fades when purpose is clear. Purpose brings focus. Focus brings peace. At the end of the day, reviewing your win matters. Acknowledge it without exaggeration and without dismissing it. The brain responds to acknowledgement. This is not pride. This is reinforcement. Reinforcement strengthens behavior. Ignore your wins and the brain looks elsewhere for reward. Notice your wins and the brain wants to repeat them. Over time, daily wins compound. Not in a dramatic way, but in a human way. Skills improve, habits stabilize, emotions steady, and confidence grows quietly. People will notice before you do. You will feel more grounded, more capable, and more intentional. This is the psychology of winning every day. It is not loud. It is not flashy. It is reliable. Winning every day begins when you wake up and decide what matters today. One or two things done well. That is enough. Do not overload the day. Overloading leads to quitting. Choose clarity over volume. Choose intention over noise. Choose direction over drift. If today feels heavy, start small. A small win still counts. The brain does not measure size the way the ego does. It measures completion. Completion teaches the brain that effort leads somewhere. That lesson is priceless. Winning every day is not about being better than others. It is about being better than yesterday in a way that is real and lived, not imagined. Define the win, live the win, review the win, and rest. Then do it again tomorrow. This is how ordinary days turn into a strong life. Chapter 2. Train attention to spot small victories. Most people do not struggle because they fail too much. They struggle because they overlook progress that is already happening. The human mind has a habit of paying more attention to what is missing than to what is improving. This is not weakness, it is conditioning. From an early age, attention is trained toward problems, mistakes, and gaps. That training keeps people alert, but it also steals momentum. Winning every day requires retraining attention, so it learns to notice small victories as they happen. Attention is powerful because whatever you focus on grows in importance. When attention stays fixed on flaws, effort feels heavy. When attention learns to notice progress, effort feels worthwhile. Psychology shows that behavior strengthens when the brain receives regular signals of success. Those signals do not have to be loud. They only have to be noticed. A small victory might be getting started when you wanted to delay. It might be choosing calm words instead of sharp ones. It might be staying focused 10 minutes longer than usual. These moments pass quickly, but they shape behavior deeply. When attention misses them, the brain records the day as neutral or negative. When attention notices them, the brain records progress. Progress fuels persistence. Most people wait for big wins to feel encouraged. Big wins are rare by nature. Small wins are frequent but invisible to untrained attention. Training attention is not positive thinking. It is accurate thinking. It is seeing what is actually happening instead of only what is lacking. Accuracy builds stability. Stability builds confidence. Attention can be trained just like any skill. It begins with slowing down enough to notice what you did right even when the outcome was not perfect. If the only thing that counts is perfection, the brain learns to quit early. If effort, improvement, and follow-through are noticed, the brain learns to stay engaged. There is a quiet emotional reward that comes from noticing small victories. It is not excitement, it is satisfaction. Satisfaction steadies the mind. A steady mind makes better decisions. Better decisions improve behavior. This cycle repeats quietly day after day. Many people live with constant internal pressure because their attention is always scanning for what went wrong. That pressure drains energy. When attention is retrained to include what went right, pressure softens. Energy returns. This is not denial of problems. It is balance. Balanced attention sees the whole picture. When attention improves, emotional regulation improves. The brain reacts strongly to perceived failure. When small victories are noticed, perceived failure decreases even if challenges remain. This reduces emotional spikes. Calm increases. Calm allows better choices. Training attention to spot small victories also builds resilience. Resilience is not toughness alone. It is the ability to recover quickly. Recovery is easier when the mind remembers progress instead of replaying disappointment. Small victories provide anchors during difficult days. Another benefit is self-respect. Self-respect grows when effort is acknowledged. Ignored effort feels wasted. Acknowledged effort feels meaningful. Meaning sustains action over time. This is especially important during long projects or personal change where results come slowly. The mind learns patterns through repetition. If attention repeatedly notices failure, the brain expects failure. If attention repeatedly notices progress, the brain expects improvement. Expectations shape behavior. People act differently when they expect progress. They show up more prepared, more patient, and more willing to try again. Training attention does not mean celebrating everything. It means being honest about growth. Growth is often quiet. Attention must be intentional to see it. This is a daily practice. At the end of the day, pause long enough to recall moments where you chose effort, clarity, or restraint. These moments matter. Some people feel uncomfortable noticing their own wins because they confuse it with arrogance. There is nothing arrogant about accuracy. Ignoring progress does not create humility. It creates discouragement. Healthy confidence comes from honest evaluation. Honest evaluation includes wins and areas to improve. Small victories also shape identity. Each noticed win reinforces a self-image of capability. Identity shifts slowly but steadily. A person who notices progress begins to believe change is possible. Belief affects behavior. Behavior reinforces belief. This loop is powerful. Attention is also contagious. When you notice your own small victories, you begin to notice progress in others. This improves relationships. Conversations become more constructive. Encouragement becomes natural. People respond better to those who see effort, not just results. Snorts. Many people think motivation comes from excitement. Motivation more often comes from meaning. Small victories provide meaning because they show effort is moving somewhere. The brain likes progress, even slow progress. Progress signals safety and possibility. Training attention also reduces burnout. Burnout often comes from long periods of effort without recognition. When recognition is internal, burnout decreases. You do not have to wait for others to notice. You become your own witness. This practice also improves focus. When the mind expects to notice wins, it stays engaged longer. Distraction decreases. Attention sharpens because it is looking for value, not escape. This makes work feel more purposeful. Some days will not offer many visible wins. On those days, attention must look deeper. Did you show patience? Did you avoid quitting? Did you keep your word? These are victories of character. Character wins matter more than comfort wins. They shape the future. The goal is not to inflate the day. The goal is to see it clearly. Clear sight builds strength. Strength builds consistency. Consistency builds results. Winning every day depends on where attention lies. If attention lives only on the finish line, the present feels empty. If attention lives in daily effort, the present feels meaningful. Meaning makes discipline sustainable. As attention trains over time, confidence becomes quieter and stronger. You no longer need constant reassurance. You trust the process because you see it working. This trust reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves performance. This is how small victories become large change. Not through excitement but through repetition. Attention notices effort. Effort continues. Change follows. Train attention daily, not forcefully, gently, and honestly. Notice when you did a little better than yesterday. Notice when you stayed engaged. Notice when you chose growth over comfort. These moments shape your psychology more than any dramatic event. Winning every day is not about loud success. It is about steady awareness. Awareness directs behavior. Behavior builds life. Chapter 3. Choose thoughts that increase daily confidence. Confidence is not something people are born with or denied at birth. Confidence is built quietly through the thoughts a person chooses to repeat every single day. Thoughts are not harmless background noise. They are instructions. The mind listens even when you are not paying attention. Whatever you tell it consistently, it begins to accept as truth. That truth then shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. Results reinforce belief. This cycle runs whether you guide it or not. Most people think confidence comes from success. In reality, success often comes from confidence that was built before results showed up. Confidence is not pretending everything will work out. It is choosing thoughts that keep you steady enough to act. A confident person is not free of doubt. They simply do not let doubt run the day. Every morning, the mind begins making quiet comments about the day ahead. Some of those comments are helpful. Many are not. If left unchecked, the mind often leans toward caution, fear, and past disappointment. This is normal human wiring. The mind tries to protect you from risk by reminding you of what went wrong before. Protection is useful, but overprotection leads to shrinking. Confidence grows when you learn to challenge those automatic thoughts and replace them with stronger ones. Choosing confidence-based thoughts does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing thoughts that help you deal with reality effectively. If a thought makes you hesitate, withdraw, or doubt your ability to handle the day, it weakens confidence. If a thought reminds you that you have handled difficulty before, it strengthens confidence. Both thoughts might be true, but only one moves you forward. The mind believes repetition more than logic. A single strong thought repeated daily is more powerful than 100 motivational speeches heard once. This is why the inner voice matters so much. That voice is speaking all day long. The question is whether it is training you or draining you. Many people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to another person. Harsh judgment, constant reminders of failure, and exaggeration of mistakes weaken confidence quickly. Confidence does not survive abuse even when that abuse comes from inside. Choosing better thoughts is an act of self-respect. It is not softness. It is strategy. A useful confidence-building thought is grounded in effort, not outcome. Thoughts like "I can handle this step" or "I will stay engaged even if it feels uncomfortable" create stability. These thoughts do not promise success. They promise presence. Presence is powerful. When you stay present, you make better decisions. Better decisions improve results. Another helpful category of thoughts focuses on learning instead of judging. When something goes wrong, the mind often jumps to labels like failure or weakness. These labels shut down confidence. A learning-focused thought asks, "What can I adjust next time?" This keeps confidence intact while still allowing improvement. Confidence also grows when thoughts are aligned with personal values. When your thoughts remind you why something matters to you, effort feels meaningful. Meaning reduces fear. Fear loses strength when purpose is clear. One reason people lose confidence is because they demand certainty before action. The mind says act when you are sure. Confidence grows when you reverse that order. You act while unsure and build confidence through experience. Choosing thoughts that allow movement without certainty is essential. Thoughts like, "I do not need to know everything to begin" create momentum. The brain responds to consistency. If you choose steady, constructive thoughts every day, the brain begins to expect competence. That expectation changes posture, tone, and decision-making. People often notice this shift before you do. Confidence shows up in how you speak, listen, and respond. Confidence-building thoughts also help regulate emotion. Strong emotions can distort perception. When emotions rise, the mind tends to exaggerate danger. A chosen thought like, "I can slow this down" brings balance. Balance restores clarity. Clarity supports confidence. It is important to understand that thoughts do not have to be loud to be effective. Quiet reminders repeated often carry weight. The goal is not excitement. The goal is steadiness. Steady confidence lasts longer than emotional highs. Choosing confidence-based thoughts also protects you from comparison. Comparison weakens confidence because it shifts attention outward. Thoughts that bring attention back to your own effort and progress strengthen self-trust. Self-trust is the core of confidence. Many people think confidence means feeling fearless. Confidence actually means feeling fear and acting anyway. Thoughts that normalize fear instead of fighting it help confidence grow. Fear loses power when it is acknowledged and managed rather than denied. Confidence also grows when thoughts focus on preparation. Prepared people feel more capable. Thoughts that encourage preparation instead of worry shift energy into action. Action builds confidence faster than reassurance. The mind also needs permission to succeed. Some people carry unconscious beliefs that they should not stand out or succeed fully. Choosing thoughts that allow growth and improvement removes these hidden limits. Permission is powerful. Confidence is also built through honest self-talk. After setback, when things go wrong, the thoughts you choose determine whether confidence shrinks or stabilizes. Thoughts that separate behavior from identity preserve confidence. "You did something that did not work" is very different from "you are incapable." Choosing thoughts is a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Some days the mind will resist. On those days, confidence comes from discipline, not feeling. You choose better thoughts because they serve you, not because they feel natural. Yet over time the mind adapts. What once required effort becomes automatic. Confidence becomes a habit rather than a struggle. Habits shape destiny quietly. Winning every day requires mental leadership. You lead your thoughts instead of following them. This leadership creates inner order. Inner order creates outer effectiveness. Confidence does not demand perfection. It demands honesty and persistence. Thoughts that support these qualities are worth repeating. When confidence grows, action becomes simpler. You hesitate less, second-guess less, and recover faster. Recovery speed is a sign of true confidence. Confident people do not avoid mistakes. They move through them. Choosing thoughts that increase daily confidence is not about controlling every thought. It is about choosing which thoughts get your agreement. You may hear doubt, but you do not have to endorse it. Confidence also affects how you rest. When you trust yourself, rest becomes recovery, not escape. Rested people show up stronger. Strength reinforces confidence. Every day offers chances to practice. Small choices matter. The thought you choose before a conversation, before a task, before a decision shapes the experience. Confidence built this way is durable. It does not collapse under pressure because it is based on action learning and self-trust. Winning every day begins inside. Choose thoughts that keep you capable, steady, and willing. Those thoughts shape behavior. Behavior shapes life. Chapter 4. Act early to create winning momentum. Starting early is one of the simplest and most powerful ways to win the day. Most people lose momentum not because they aren't capable, but because they wait too long to get going. They let hesitation grow. They let overthinking sneak in. They talk themselves out of taking the first step. But winning isn't reserved for the smartest or the most talented. It's reserved for those who begin. Early action puts you ahead, not just in results, but in mindset. It clears your thinking. It reduces anxiety. It turns pressure into purpose. And the earlier you act, the faster you begin to feel in control of your own day. When you start late, your energy is already being pulled in different directions. Messages are coming in, distractions are louder, and your mental clarity is weaker. But when you act early before the noise of the day takes over, you get a clean space to set the tone. Momentum is built when you stop waiting to feel perfect. The perfect time is an illusion. The right mood is inconsistent. Early action doesn't wait for permission from your emotions. It simply begins. If you want to win every day, you can't leave your morning up to chance. You have to decide what matters and then move toward it while the rest of the world is still deciding what to do. This gives you power. This gives you freedom. Starting early doesn't mean waking up at 4 a.m. or following someone else's routine. It means acting before resistance builds up. It means taking one meaningful step before your doubts start negotiating with your goals. Human behavior is shaped by momentum. When you complete something early, your brain gets a small win. That win increases dopamine, a chemical linked to motivation and focus. This is not just theory. It's how the brain works. That dopamine encourages more action. So the earlier you begin, the faster you shift your mind into a productive state. And that state is self-reinforcing. One win makes the next step easier. Waiting drains energy. Most people don't realize how heavy waiting feels. Not waiting for others, waiting on yourself, thinking about what you should do, knowing what you need to do, but not doing it yet. That space between knowing and doing is where stress builds. It feels small at first, but it grows quickly. It becomes mental clutter. The antidote is action. Not massive overwhelming action, just movement. Just getting into motion before hesitation becomes your default. There's a deep psychological benefit to acting early. It builds trust with yourself. When you do what you said you'd do without delay, you feel stronger. You stop second-guessing. You stop hiding behind distractions. You show up for your own potential. That self-trust becomes confident, and confidence becomes consistency, and consistency becomes progress. That chain starts with one early decision. You don't have to solve the whole day. You don't have to crush your entire to-do list. Just take the first action that matters. Often, it's the smallest step that breaks the biggest resistance. Maybe it's starting the task you've been avoiding. Maybe it's sending that message. Maybe it's showing up to a workout or writing for 10 minutes. Don't underestimate the power of that first move. It's the signal to your brain that the day has started and you're in charge of how it goes. A lot of people lose time in the name of planning. Planning has its place, but overplanning is a delay tactic dressed up as productivity. It keeps you busy while avoiding the discomfort of beginning. But nothing creates clarity like starting. Once you move, your mind adjusts. Your focus sharpens. You start solving problems that seemed impossible in your head. The best clarity comes from doing, not from thinking. The more often you act early, the more momentum becomes part of your identity. You stop being someone who waits and start being someone who leads. You lead your own time, your own choices and your own effort. This leadership gives you a sense of personal power. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop hoping for motivation. You stop needing everything to be perfect before you begin. That shift is where freedom lies. Early action also helps you stay emotionally regulated. Stress often builds because tasks feel heavier the longer you wait. Deadlines creep closer. Conversations you're avoiding grow more uncomfortable. The mental weight increases. But when you start early, you take away that buildup. You reduce pressure before it begins. And that reduces emotional chaos. You think clearer. You speak better. You decide faster. There's also something deeply satisfying about ending the day knowing you began strong. When you start early, the whole day feels like it belongs to you. You're not trying to catch up. You're not running behind your own goals. You're leading the pace. That feeling isn't just good, it's productive. It changes how you carry yourself. You feel more grounded. You feel more capable. That's not ego. That's alignment. Momentum doesn't happen by chance. It's something you earn. Every day gives you the same choice. Wait and hope the day goes well, or act early and make it go well. The difference isn't luck. The difference is your first hour, your first decision, your first step. If you win the start, the rest becomes easier. Winning every day begins with winning the beginning of the day. Not with pressure, not with unrealistic expectations, but with intentional action, with choosing one thing that matters and moving toward it without delay. That one action starts a chain. That chain shapes your day. And those days shape your life. People who win consistently don't have easier lives. They don't have perfect focus or unlimited energy. They simply master the art of showing up early. They start before they feel ready. They act before the fear takes control. They do one thing well before the world demands their attention. And that habit builds results. Don't wait to feel like it. Don't wait for the right time. Decide early. Act early. Let the day feel like yours from the very beginning. The earlier you act, the more control you gain. And with that control comes confidence. And with confidence comes progress. You don't need to start big. You just need to start now. That's where winning lies. Not in the loud moments, not in the dramatic win, but in the quiet decision to begin while others wait. If you can build that habit even slowly, you will become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you've become someone who doesn't wait for life to move. You move first, and that's how you win every day. Chapter 5. Regulate emotions to protect daily performance. Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence or talent. They struggle because they don't manage their emotions. One moment of frustration can derail an entire day. One wave of self-doubt can cancel hours of focus. One reaction to a comment can throw your mindset off for the rest of the morning. This is not weakness. It's human. But if you want to win every day, you need to understand that your emotions play a direct role in your performance. You can have all the plans and goals you want, but if your emotions take over, those plans break down. Regulating emotions is not about pretending to be fine. It's about knowing aim to stay steady when things don't go your way. Your emotions are valid. You will feel stress, fear, anger, sadness, frustration, disappointment, and even confusion. That's part of being alive. But emotions are messengers, not decision makers. They inform you. They're not meant to control your entire response. If you let emotion drive behavior, you get short-term reactions that hurt your long-term progress. If you learn to pause, to reflect, to choose your response, you protect your performance from being hijacked. One of the most important things you can do in a high-pressure day is to pause when emotion rises. That pause might only be 3 seconds, but in that short space, you reclaim control. Without that pause, emotion speaks first and reason gets pushed aside. The pause allows you to notice what you're feeling instead of acting from it blindly. That awareness is the first skill of emotional regulation. You cannot change what you don't notice. The person who's unaware of their emotional state becomes reactive, but the one who notices it has a chance to lead themselves. Your ability to manage emotion affects your energy. Unregulated emotions drain you. Even if nothing changed on the outside, your inner world can tire you out. Anger can make your body feel tense. Anxiety can shorten your breath. Overwhelm can cloud your thinking. That's why emotional discipline is not just about staying calm. It's about protecting your energy for the things that actually matter. There's a cost to reacting to everything that bothers you. It costs time, focus, and clarity. Learning how to regulate emotion helps you protect these resources. You don't get pulled into arguments that don't matter. You don't waste time replaying negative moments. You don't carry someone else's bad energy into your own decision. You stay grounded in what you want to create, not what upset you in the moment. There's power in understanding what triggers your strongest emotional responses. Some people react sharply to criticism. Others get anxious when things feel uncertain. Some feel discouraged quickly when they make a small mistake. The goal is not to avoid these things, but to recognize your patterns. When you know your triggers, you can prepare yourself. You can create space between the emotion and the action. That space is where growth happens. One effective way to regulate emotion is to ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Often the emotion isn't just about what happened. It's about the meaning we attach to it. Someone doesn't reply to a message and your mind says, they're ignoring me. You make a mistake and your mind says, I'm not good enough. These interpretations fuel emotion, but when you question the story, you open the door to other possibilities. Maybe they're busy. Maybe you just need more practice. This doesn't mean you ignore the situation. It means you choose a more helpful way to see it. Emotion also affects how you speak to yourself. When you're upset, your inner voice can turn negative fast. It might say things like, you always mess up. Or, why can't you get it right? That voice shapes your confidence. Emotional regulation includes learning to speak to yourself with clarity, not cruelty. You can acknowledge disappointment without turning it into self-attack. You can notice fear without calling yourself weak. That shift creates space for steady thinking. Another part of regulating emotion is movement. Physical movement changes your emotional state. When emotion builds up, your body holds it. Go for a walk, stretch, breathe deeply. These aren't minor activities. They're tools. They help you reset without forcing your mind to figure everything out. You're not avoiding emotion. You're giving it space to move through you. People often think emotional control means pushing feelings down. That's not sustainable. Suppressed emotion leaks out in other ways through tension, irritability, or burnout. Regulating emotion means giving yourself permission to feel while still choosing how to respond. It means allowing sadness without shutting down. It means recognizing anger without becoming destructive. It means noticing fear without letting it run your behavior. You also protect your performance by regulating what you expose yourself to. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every opinion needs a response. You can care without carrying. You can be kind without agreeing. Emotional discipline also means knowing when to walk away from things that drain your mental space. Some days will feel emotionally heavy. You might wake up already feeling off. On those days, your job is to reduce pressure. Lower the volume of demands and focus on simple action. Progress matters more than perfection. If you try to power through without acknowledging how you feel, you risk burnout. But if you give yourself structure and compassion, you can still win the day even in a rough state. Protecting your daily performance is not about being emotionally numb. It's about staying emotionally intelligent. You learn to ride the waves without letting them sink you. You gain the ability to slow down in a world that's always pushing for a reaction. And in that calm, you find better choices. Every time you regulate an emotion, instead of reacting to it, you prove something important to yourself. You prove that you're not controlled by every impulse. You prove that you're not controlled by every impulse. You prove that you can lead yourself, and that builds confidence. Not the kind of confidence that's loud, but the kind that's strong and steady. That's the kind of confidence that lasts. Emotion will always be part of the human experience. It will always show up. But when you learn to sit with it, understand it, and respond instead of react, you gain power. That power helps you stay focused. It helps you be kind to others without being unkind to yourself. It helps you do your best work without collapsing under pressure. Winning every day is not just about strategy or planning. It's about emotional maturity. It's about the ability to stay steady when things feel uncertain. It's about handling challenges without letting them ruin your momentum. It's about knowing that your feelings are real, but so is your responsibility to respond with strength. You won't always get it right. Some days emotion will win. That's okay. But when you reflect, learn, and come back stronger, you're still moving forward. Every time you pause before reacting, you're rewiring your response. You're building emotional strength, and that strength is what protects your performance, not just once, but day after day. Chapter 6. Reinforce success by reviewing each day. Most people go through their day focused on doing as much as possible. They wake up, get into motion, handle tasks, respond to messages, and push through their schedules. But when the day ends, they rush to shut down, missing one of the most important steps in personal growth. Reviewing the day. It sounds simple, but it's one of the most powerful habits anyone can build. Not for guilt, not for judgment, but for learning, reinforcement, and real self-awareness. You don't grow from doing something once. You grow by doing it, thinking about it, and repeating what works. If you want to win every day, you have to end each day by asking, what did I actually do that moved me forward? Success doesn't stick by accident. It sticks because it's noticed. The brain needs reinforcement. It needs confirmation that the effort mattered, that the decision to push through resistance was worth it. If you don't tell yourself what went right, the brain forgets. And if it forgets, it doesn't repeat. This is why so many people feel stuck. Even though they're working hard, they're not reviewing. They're not extracting the lessons. They're not locking in the wins. Without review, even progress fades into noise. When you take just a few minutes to reflect on your day, you begin to see patterns. You begin to notice what makes you stronger and what drains you. You realize which thoughts helped and which distracted you. You see how your time was used, not how you imagined it, but how it actually unfolded. That awareness turns every day into a lesson. Not a lecture, but a quiet moment of truth. And truth, when used well, builds clarity. Clarity fuels consistency. And consistency creates real momentum. Reviewing the day doesn't mean overanalyzing everything. It's not about obsessing over every detail. It's about checking in with honesty. Did I show up the way I wanted to? What was one thing I did right today? What challenged me? And how did I respond? Where did I lose focus? What helped me get back on track? These questions are not just reflective. They are practical. They teach your mind how to recognize winning behaviors and how to adjust quickly. You don't need to write a full journal if that feels too much. Even thinking through these questions for 5 minutes before bed trains your mind to become more self-directed. You stop floating through days hoping for progress and start shaping your habits based on what actually works for you. That's a huge difference. That's what separates people who grow from those who repeat the same year 10 times and call it experience. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they're already doing in a single day. They end the day feeling like they're behind, not because they didn't try, but because they didn't stop to notice what went well. This creates unnecessary discouragement. When you review your day, you give yourself proof, real clear proof that you're moving. Maybe not fast, maybe not perfect, but forward. And forward is all you need. Review also helps you become emotionally stronger. You start to notice how your mood affected your action. You begin to see how certain people or situations influenced your energy. This helps you plan better. You learn when to rest. You learn when to push. You learn where to set boundaries. That level of emotional awareness gives you more control over how you show up tomorrow. There's also something powerful about ending the day with your own voice, not someone else's. So much of our time is spent responding to other people, their needs, their questions, their opinions. But review is yours. It's not for public display. It's a space where you reconnect with what you're building. It's where you measure yourself by your own values, not social approval. And that is where internal confidence grows. Reviewing the day also removes guesswork. Instead of relying on how you felt about the day, which can be distorted by a single frustrating moment, you rely on facts. What did you actually do? What did you actually say? What did you follow through on? When you look at the day through that lens, things become more balanced. You see both the wins and the areas to improve. You don't get too high and you don't crash too low. You stay grounded. The best part is reviewing your day creates the blueprint for a better tomorrow. You don't start each day from scratch. You build on what you learned yesterday. You carry forward what works. You drop what doesn't. That makes each new day less random, less chaotic. It becomes more intentional, more aligned. That's the real meaning of progress. Not snorts, just doing more, but doing better because you understand yourself more deeply. This habit also prevents burnout. Most burnout doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from feeling like nothing you do matters. Review reminds you that your actions count, that your efforts are seen, if not by others, then at least by you. And when you know your effort matters, you stop chasing outside validation. You move with more peace, more purpose, less pressure. You may not win every day in the way you planned. Some days will feel messy. Some plans will fall apart, but even on those days, review gives you something valuable. It gives you the ability to say, here's what I did right, even when things were hard. That's not denial. That's resilience. That's snorts refusing to waste your effort just because the day didn't go perfectly. You'll also start to notice that reviewing your day improves your memory and sharpens your learning. The brain retains more when it revisits information. So, when you think through what happened, your mind starts building stronger connections. You remember lessons long. You develop better instincts. You make smarter decisions next time because you've already walked through similar moments with awareness. Make review a daily checkpoint, not a punishment. It's not about guilt. It's about guidance. You're not reviewing to shame yourself. You're reviewing to support yourself. To say, I'm paying attention. I care about how I live. I'm not going to waste my days on autopilot. That's a powerful message to send yourself. Even a simple practice like writing down 3 good things from the day starts to rewire your brain. Over time, you begin to look for good moments automatically. You become more solution-focused. You catch yourself doing things right. And when you catch yourself doing something right, you repeat it. You build on it. That's how strong habits form through repetition and awareness, not just motivation. You're not just building a better day, you're building a better version of yourself, one day at a time. And that process is too important to leave unread. Don't let your effort go unnoticed. Give yourself the gift of your own attention. Take clear's throat time to look at how you lived, not to judge, but to learn, to grow, to lock in what works, and let go of what doesn't. The day isn't done until it's reviewed. That's the mark of a person who is serious about growth, not someone who's perfect, someone who's paying attention. And when you pay attention to your own life, it begins to change. Not all at once, but steadily, surely, and in ways that last. That's what winning every day truly means. Chapter 7. Replace excuses with responsibility every day. Excuses are easy to make. They show up without effort. They offer comfort, temporary relief, and a way out of discomfort. But they cost more than people realize. Every excuse you make distances you from growth. Every excuse takes your power and hands it to something outside of you. That's the trap. Excuses sound reasonable. They sound smart. But underneath them is a decision to avoid responsibility. And without responsibility, there is no change. If you want to win every day, the first thing you have to do is remove the habit of explaining away your choices. You have to stop pointing outward and start looking inward. Not for blame but for power. Responsibility is where progress begins. When something goes wrong, the natural instinct is to look for reasons. The weather, the timing, the people around you, your schedule, your mood. It all feels fair, but none of those things control your decisions. They influence you, yes, but they don't decide for you. You decide, and every time you admit that, you grow. Every time you say that was on me, you get stronger, not weaker. Responsibility isn't heavy, avoiding it is. You build a better life not by having easier days, but by getting better at responding to hard ones. That starts with being honest about your role. When you miss a goal, own it. When you lose focus, own it. When you say you'll do something and don't own it, because only when you own it can you change it. Excuses lock you in the same place. Responsibility gives you room to move. People don't grow by being perfect. They grow by being accountable. That means saying, I didn't handle that well without destroying your self-worth. It means saying, I can do better tomorrow, without feeling shame. Responsibility is not about guilt. It's about maturity. It's about showing up for your own decisions every day and doing the hard thing, leading yourself instead of blaming others. Excuses rob you of time. You can spend hours defending why you didn't do something, or you can spend those same hours changing your behavior. The more you practice responsibility, the more efficient your life becomes. You stop recycling the same problems. You stop repeating the same mistakes. You stop having the same conversations with yourself about why things aren't working. Replacing excuses with responsibility is a mindset shift. It's no longer about trying to win arguments with yourself. It's about doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. That sounds rigid, but it's freeing. It takes the weight off your emotions and puts the focus on your actions. You don't need to feel perfect to take responsibility. You just need to care enough about your future to stop delaying your progress. Every day you'll be tempted to say, I didn't have time, but time didn't disappear. It was used somewhere else. Own that. Say, I chose to spend it differently. That's the truth. And truth, even when uncomfortable, is powerful. The moment you tell the truth about your day, your choices, and your energy, you become the kind of person who can improve. You become someone who's in motion, not stuck in loops of self-justification. Responsibility also gives you control over your identity. Excuses tie your identity to circumstances. Responsibility ties it to values. You stop saying that's just how I am and start saying that's something I can work on. You stop defending your limits and start expanding them. That shift changes everything. When you practice taking responsibility, people trust you more. You become dependable. You become clear. People know where you stand. They see you own your mistakes without deflecting. That creates influence. It builds character. It shows leadership first over yourself, then in how you serve others. Excuses create noise. They fill your mind with clutter. They keep you thinking about what didn't happen instead of focusing on what you can do now. Responsibility clears that noise. It says, yes, that happened. Now what? It brings you into the present. And that's where real change happens. Not in the past you can't change, but in the choices you make now. Taking responsibility every day isn't about carrying the weight of the world. It's about refusing to hand your power to anything you can control. You can't control every outcome. But you can control your preparation, your attitude, your discipline, your response, your ability to reflect and adjust. That's responsibility. It's the foundation of consistency. And consistency is what leads to growth. You don't need to be extreme to be responsible. Start small. Notice the moments you want to blame someone or something. Catch it. Replace it. Say, what part of this can I own? That's how the habit is built. Not by doing everything right, but by being real with yourself. When you do this often enough, your mindset changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone who reacts and start seeing yourself as someone who leads. You'll still face obstacles. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. But when you take responsibility, even setbacks become useful. They're not punishments. They're signals. Signals to improve something. Signals to prepare differently. Signals to shift your strategy. That's how responsible people think. They don't waste energy arguing with reality. They use reality as fuel. Replacing excuses also affects your confidence. When you know you're in charge of your life, you stop feeling like everything is out of your hands. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop hoping for better conditions. You get to work. And through that work, confidence grows, not from words, but from action that's aligned with who you want to be. Excuses feel safe because they protect your ego, but in protecting it, they weaken it. They build walls around your potential. Responsibility might feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, it strengthens you. It says, I'm capable of more, not because you've always succeeded, but because you're willing to face the truth and act on it. People who win every day are not immune to distractions, setbacks, or negative thoughts. What makes them different is their habit of responsibility. They don't deny the hard parts. They move through them. They don't spend their day explaining why they could. They spend it finding out how they can. Each time you replace an excuse with responsibility, you take one step closer to becoming someone who can be counted on by others and, more importantly, by yourself. You stop waiting for ideal conditions and start creating better results through ownership. Winning isn't about having everything together. It's about making the choice to take responsibility for what you do with what you have every single day. No matter how it feels, no matter how things look, that's the habit. That's the mindset. That's the way forward. And it's available to you right now. Chapter 8. Practice consistency to build winning identity. Winning doesn't come from what you do once. It comes from what you repeat. When nobody's watching, most people are chasing breakthroughs, waiting for big moments, hoping for dramatic change. But the truth is this: your identity is shaped by what you do consistently. The way you speak, the way you show up, the way you train your focus, the way you handle discomfort. Those small things repeated day after day create the strongest foundation. And the only way to build that foundation is through consistency. Consistency isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things regularly enough that they start to shape how you see yourself. If you meditate one day, it might feel nice, but it doesn't change much. If you do it for 20 days straight, something inside you shifts. You no longer see yourself as someone who just tries it. You see yourself as someone who practices mindfulness. That shift in identity matters more than the action itself. Because once you believe it, you begin to live it. Every action you take casts a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. And it's the repeated votes that matter, not the loud ones. One strong day doesn't define you, but 5 quiet ones in a row. That's where real progress lives. The way to build a winning identity is to show up again and again, especially when it's boring, uncomfortable, or unnoticed. Consistency is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters even when it feels small. One of the biggest lies people believe is that motivation leads to action. But motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls. If your progress depends on how motivated you feel, you'll struggle to build anything real. The people who win every day don't wait to feel ready. They follow a system. They show up because it's part of who they are now, not because it always feels exciting. That's what consistency trains. The ability to follow through without needing constant inspiration. Your brain learns through patterns. When you repeat a behavior over and over, your brain starts to expect it. It becomes easier. You face less resistance. You stop arguing with yourself about whether or not to do the thing. You just do it, and in that rhythm, you gain freedom. Freedom from indecision, freedom from delay, freedom from needing everything to feel perfect before you begin. That freedom is built through simple repeated action. There's a confidence that only comes from consistency. It's not loud. It's not based on compliments or results. It's the quiet kind. The kind that grows when you know you can rely on yourself. That confidence becomes your foundation when life gets difficult. It reminds you that you've trained for this, not just by reading or talking, but by showing up when it counted. Consistency is also one of the greatest forms of self-respect. It says, I'm worth the effort. Even when you're tired, even when things are uncertain, even when nobody else notices. It's a statement you make to yourself every time you choose to stick to what you said mattered. That consistency rewires how you think, how you act, and how you speak to yourself. Many people chase new routines, new plans, new hacks. And it's not because they don't want to improve. It's because sticking with something is hard. There's always a temptation to start over instead of finishing what you started. But you don't become consistent by finding the perfect plan. You become consistent by making the choice to keep going even when the plan feels uncomfortable. Progress doesn't come from constant change. It comes from commitment. The most powerful identity you can build is being someone who finishes, someone who follows through, someone who does what they said they would do, not once but consistently. That identity can carry you through low days, through pressure, through obstacles because you don't have to think about who you are anymore. You've proven it through your actions, through your habits, through your behavior. And the truth is, consistency compound. One good day might not feel like much, but stack 10 of them together and your mind starts to shift. You start to trust your decisions more. You start to notice better results. You feel less chaos in your routines. Your focus sharpens. Your energy is used more intentionally. That's not luck. That's what happens when consistency becomes part of who you are. One of the best ways to build consistency is to keep your actions simple. Don't make your process so complicated that you can't stick with it. Make it clear, make it repeatable, and most of all, make it something that fits into your life every single day. Whether it's journaling, exercising, studying, or improving your communication, the goal is not intensity, it's repetition. You don't need to do it all at once. You just need to do it often enough that it becomes second nature. You also need to protect your consistency from perfectionism. Perfection breaks habits. It makes you feel like if you missed a day, the whole thing is ruined. That's not how growth works. Missing once isn't failure. What matters is what you do next. Get back to it. That bounce back moment is where you build the most strength. Consistency isn't ruined by imperfection. It's built by getting back on track faster, clearer, and without guilt. When you stay consistent, you start building evidence. That evidence begins to speak louder than your doubt. When your mind says you're not disciplined, you can look at your actions and say, actually, I've shown up for the last 20 days. That's not opinion. That's proof. And that proof becomes the foundation of belief. That belief shapes your future actions. That's how you become unstoppable. Not by force, but by evidence stacked over time. Your identity is not fixed. It's shaped by your choices. And the most powerful way to shape it is through consistency. Not once a month, not when it's easy, but daily, intentionally. without waiting for permission, without waiting for the perfect mood. That daily practice rewrites the way you see yourself. When you look in the mirror, you'll no longer have to guess who you are. You'll not because of what you say, but because of what you do consistently. You'll know you're someone who trains focus, who honors commitments, who makes progress even on hard days. And that knowledge isn't built through hype. It's built through action. You don't have to change everything overnight. Start small. Stay honest. Keep moving. Let each day become a quiet vote for the person you're becoming. You won't need to convince anyone. Your actions will speak. Your patterns will show. And your life will reflect the strength of that consistency. This is what builds a winning identity. Not just desire, not just effort, but repeated commitment, daily repetition, long-term attention, quiet discipline. If you want to win every day, then consistency isn't just helpful, it's essential. It's the practice that holds everything together. And once it becomes who you are, everything else gets easier. Chapter 9. Learn from losses without losing confidence. No one likes to lose. It hurts. It creates doubt. It brings up frustration. But if you're committed to personal growth and to winning every day, you need to understand this. Loss is not the enemy. Loss is information. It's feedback. It's part of the process of becoming someone stronger, sharper, and more capable. What breaks people isn't the loss itself. It's what they believe about themselves because of it. It's the meaning they attach to it. And that's the part you can control. Learning from a loss doesn't mean losing confidence. In fact, when you do it right, it's the very thing that builds deeper, more unshakable belief in yourself. There's a big difference between failing at something and believing that you are a failure. Most people don't separate those ideas. So, when something goes wrong, they don't just reflect on the decision, they attack their own worth. That's when confidence starts to disappear. Confidence can't survive when you're tearing yourself apart every time you mess up. You have to create space between the outcome and your identity. You made a mistake. That's real. But that doesn't mean you are a mistake. You didn't win this round, but that doesn't mean you're not someone who wins. If you want to keep moving forward, you must protect your belief in who you're becoming, even when the results don't look like progress. When you lose, the goal is not to ignore it or act like it didn't happen. It's to face it directly, take what's useful, and leave behind what isn't. Confidence isn't built through pretending. It's built through reflection. The most confident people in the world are not the ones who never lose. They're the ones who have learned how to lose. Well, they ask the right questions. What did I overlook? Where did I slow down? What expectation did I carry that wasn't helpful? Where did I act out of fear instead of strategy? These are not questions of blame. They are questions of responsibility. Responsibility leads to growth and growth restores confidence. Losses are emotionally loud. That's why many people avoid looking at them closely. They'd rather move on quickly than sit with the discomfort. But ignoring it means repeating it. And nothing shakes confidence like running into the same wall again and again. The longer you avoid reflection, the more that mistake becomes a pattern. And patterns shape identity. That's why honest review matters. It's not punishment, it's protection. You also have to notice how you speak to yourself during and after a setback. That voice in your head can be your best coach or your worst enemy. When you stumble, does your inner voice say, "Of course, you never get it right"? Or does it say, "This is tough, but we'll figure it out"? That difference matters because your brain listens and over time it starts to believe whatever gets repeated. If your self-talk is harsh and unforgiving, your confidence will shrink. No matter how talented you are. But if your self-talk is steady and constructive, your confidence can grow even when things go wrong. There's also power in understanding that one loss doesn't erase your past progress. Tend to view setbacks as proof that nothing's working, but that's rarely true. One mistake doesn't erase the work you've done. One clear's throat delay doesn't cancel all the steps you've taken. You are not starting over. You are continuing now with more knowledge. That mental framing keeps you moving instead of spiraling. The goal is to stay grounded in the bigger picture, not get lost in the emotion of the moment. Confidence is built when you refuse to give up on your effort just because the outcome wasn't what you wanted. There's something deeply powerful about showing up the day after a tough loss and deciding to work again. And GT, clears throat, and GT, that decision builds something inside of you that cannot be shaken by one result. It builds the kind of confidence that doesn't need external proof. It's the kind of belief that lasts. Losing is also a great way to see what you care about. If something didn't matter, it wouldn't hurt. So use that pain as direction. Ask yourself, why does this matter to me? What am I really trying to build here? Reconnect with your reason. Let the setback bring you closer to your values, not farther from them. When you understand the why, you become stronger in the how. It's also important to remember that most people only show their wins. You might compare your low moment to someone else's highlight reel. That's a quick way to feel like you're behind, but the truth is everyone loses. Everyone struggles. You're not falling apart. You're in process. You're learning, and every time you choose to face the loss and grow from it, you're developing a skill that most people never learn. That's something to be proud of. If you want to protect your confidence, stop making your losses personal. Start making them educational. You don't need to pretend it didn't hurt, but you do need to stop assuming it defines you. What defines you is what you do next. You can choose to shrink or you can choose to sharpen. You can hide or you can lean in. That's always in your control. You're allowed to feel disappointed. You're allowed to take a moment to breathe. But don't stay in that place too long. Reclaim your posture. Rebuild your energy. Get back into motion. Let the loss remind you that you are someone who can recover, someone who learns, someone who adapts. Because that kind of mindset is more valuable than any temporary win. And you don't have to do it alone. Sometimes talking through a loss with someone you trust can help you see things you missed. A fresh perspective can help reframe the experience. Just make sure the person you talk to believes in growth. Surround yourself with people who encourage your effort, not just your result. You also want to track your lessons. Write them down. Keep a record of what you've learned from setbacks. Over time, you'll start to see something powerful, that you've actually been improving through difficult. That your confidence isn't based on always getting it right, but on always getting back up. That's the kind of confidence that makes you consistent, that makes you grounded, that makes you dangerous in the best way. Confidence isn't about having all the answer. It's about trusting yourself to respond well no matter what the outcome is. When you learn from a loss without tearing yourself down, you become unstoppable because there's nothing left to fear. You've already faced discomfort, and instead of hiding from it, you turned it into strength, into clarity, into fuel. You are not your results. You are your patterns. And if your pattern is to reflect, adjust, and return stronger, then you're winning. Even on the days when it doesn't look like it yet, keep that in your mind. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep learning without losing the belief that you are still capable of great things. That's how you win every day, by knowing that losing something doesn't mean you lost everything. You can still build, grow, improve, and rise. And that belief, that steady earned belief, that's real confidence. Chapter 10. Repeat winning behaviors until they stick. Real change comes from what you do again and again. One good day isn't enough. One focused hour doesn't change your life. One strong choice isn't transformation. It's the start. But what really shapes you? What builds your future? What creates the version of you that wins consistently is what you repeat. Winning behaviors must be done until they feel natural, until they no longer feel like effort, until they become part of who you are without needing to think about them. This is where most people stop. They try something new. They feel good for a little while and then they let it fade. Not because they're lazy or broken, but because they've been taught that motivation will carry them. It won't. What carries you is repetition. Repetition builds rhythm. Rhythm builds structure. Structure builds identity. If you want your behaviors to stick, they need to move from being something you do occasionally to something you practice daily. The reason repetition matters so much is because the brain learns through experience. You can read about discipline. You can talk about habits. You can plan all day. But your mind only truly changes when your body takes action repeatedly. That's how neural pathways form. That's how behavior moves from conscious effort to automatic response. This is not magic, it's biology. And it's available to anyone who's willing to stay with the process long enough. But here's the truth. Repeating winning behaviors isn't always exciting. It's often quiet. It can feel boring. It rarely brings instant rewards. But those quiet actions are what build long-term success. Waking up on time. Following through on a commitment. Finishing what you start. Reviewing your day. Staying calm when triggered. Showing up when no one's watching. These are the things that win, not once, but over and over until they're not negotiable. The more you repeat, the less resistance you feel. That resistance at the beginning, that voice that says, skip it, delay it, it doesn't matter. It gets quieter because your actions are no longer based on feelings. They're based on a system, and systems are reliable. Systems are what keep you moving when your emotions aren't on your side. If something works for you, repeat it. Don't wait to feel inspired. Repeat what brings results. Repeat what keeps you clear. Repeat what holds you accountable. Most people abandon good routines because they think they need variety. But growth isn't about being entertained. It's about becoming effective. And effectiveness comes from doing the right things often enough that they become the default. You also need to protect your winning behaviors from distraction. The world will offer you shortcuts, trends, new ideas, promises of easier paths, but easier doesn't mean better. Stick with what works. When you find something that keeps you focused, grounded, and growing, keep doing it. Don't discard it just because something newer came along. Progress isn't about chasing what's next. It's about mastering what you've already started. There's a difference between repetition and stagnation. Repetition grows you. Stagnation traps you. The key difference is awareness. When you're intentional, repetition builds strength. You're not just going through the motions. You're paying attention to what's improving. You're making small adjustments. You're staying connected to the purpose behind the action. That's how you grow without getting bored. Don't underestimate the impact of daily wins. The small act you repeated today is shaping the way you think about yourself. The discipline you practiced is not just affecting your results. It's affecting your identity. You're becoming someone who follows through. Someone who leads their day. Someone who takes control instead of waiting for change to happen on its own. Every time you show up and do the thing, even when it's inconvenient, you're proving to yourself that you're serious about your future. That proof builds belief, and belief changes your standard. When you raise your standard through repetition, your life begins to reflect that standard. And it doesn't take hours. Most winning behaviors are small in size, but their impact grows because you're stacking them. Each time you repeat them, you're stacking strength, patience, courage, and focus. The stack gets taller, and over time, what felt hard becomes normal. What felt foreign becomes familiar. What felt out of reach becomes part of your routine. If you want to keep winning, create triggers that remind you to repeat what works. Set up cues in your environment. Use reminders, checklists, or routines that signal your brain it's time to act. Your mind is more likely to stay consistent when it has structure. And the more you connect your environment to your winning behaviors, the easier it becomes to stick with them. You also need to celebrate repetition, not in a loud way, but in a way that keeps you motivated. Track your streaks. Acknowledge your progress. Reflect on how far you've come just by being consistent. That sense of accomplishment fuels the desire to keep going. And it teaches your mind that effort pays off even if it's not flashy. Sometimes people stop repeating good behaviors because they think they should be further ahead. But mastery takes time. You can't rush it. And just because something hasn't created massive change yet doesn't mean it's not working. The change is happening quietly in your mindset, in your choices, in your ability to show up under pressure. Give it time. Keep repeating. Let the compound effect do its work. Eventually, repetition turns into identity. And when behavior becomes identity, you don't have to convince yourself to do it anymore. You don't need to hype yourself up. You just do it because it's who you are. That's the real goal. To turn winning behaviors into personal standards, into habits that don't break because they're built into your system. You can't fake repetition. You can't shortcut it, but you can commit to it. And when you do, everything changes. You stop thinking about discipline as punishment. You stop seeing routine as restriction. You start seeing it as the road to freedom. The freedom to live the life you're capable of. The freedom to wake up and know exactly who you are and how you show up in the world. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about choosing to repeat what moves you forward. Even when you're tired, even when the results are slow, even when no one is clapping. That's what separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. The winners repeat. They repeat the basics. They repeat the principles. They repeat the work until it sticks. This is your responsibility now. No one can do this for you. But you have everything you need. You know what works. You felt the impact. The question is, will you keep doing it? Will you stay with it long enough that it becomes part of your identity? Will you lead yourself into the next level? Not with dramatic effort, but with steady repeatable habits. The truth is, repetition doesn't just build success, it builds peace, it builds confidence, it builds clarity. Because when you know what works and you keep doing it, you eliminate doubt, you replace confusion with action, and you replace pressure with power. That's how you win, not once, but every single day, by repeating what works until it becomes who you are. And once that happens, no setback can take it from you.